Hello, good morning. We are live this morning. My name is Loreli and I am with
Melat.
Melat. Thank you. And we are here for young parents. We are doing these Hope That Helps segments. This is the first time we're going live today. And we thought we'd give it a try to have a conversation about mentorship, kind of riffing off of the interview Melat had with her mentor, Lorna Duick. And I'll get you to speak about that in a minute. But we actually thought about, let's have a conversation about mentorship. We really believe in it. We believe in its benefits. So we want to talk about that for a bit to pull that out and have a conversation. So let's begin. Melat, what has been your experience of mentorship?
Quite frankly, actually, it's been more than I expected. Initially going into it, I was like, okay, so I'll have somebody who's going to be checking in, see how I'm doing, hold me accountable. And that's what it is, period.
Yeah.
But it's been so impactful because it's gone beyond just somebody I talk to. It's a friend, somebody who I deeply trust. And I've actually been even shocked how much I trust and have been open and vulnerable. Vulnerability is a thing where I'm like, you got to really know somebody before you just jump in and tell them all your business. And it's been shocking. This relationship has been one where I'm like, here I am, all of me. This is what's happening in my life. And she's been really gracious, asks the right questions, listens, really listens, and not quick to give me her opinion or what she thinks or how I should solve my problems. So yeah, my experience has been one of growth, where I've been really challenged. My perspective has been shifted at times too. So yeah, really good experience. How about yours?
I love to hear that because mine,
Oh.
well, that's not true. I just want to speak to the fact that it took me a really long time to find a mentor. So the experience of mentorship has felt like a bit of a pilgrimage in that I have had a hard time finding somebody, because here's a couple things that have happened. If I have approached somebody for mentorship, they have said, I'm not qualified. I'm not who you're looking for. Or they've said they're too busy, which I don't know fully how to interpret that. So it took me a really, really long time. So, but like you, I have since found myself in a mentorship relationship, which has been so phenomenal. What happened actually after the first time we met, I'll have to send her this after we're done this, but I literally cried. I cried because she, like, I'd wanted a mentor relationship for so long that when I finally found her, after that long pilgrimage, she was a total answer to prayer.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's possible to find somebody who cares about you, somebody who wants to guide you, who's further along in the journey, who actually wants to help you. And I was just kind of shocked that people really, I know I'm my desire to help others, and it's part of what we do, right? Like, we are mentoring young parents. So I had always hoped that there would be somebody for me because we're doing that work, but it took a really long time. And I want to mention that because, we're always, people say get a mentor, find a mentor, but the journey might be a little more difficult. So I want to make sure we're aware of that as well. So since then, my mentor has been all the things that you've said. We have a wonderful, trusting relationship. We have, had amazing conversations. She's challenged me. So that's one thing too, is like, if you want to be challenged,
get a mentor.
Don't get a mentor. If you don't want to change and you don't want to be challenged, do not get a mentor. Like, how am I giving that advice? But that's the truth of it, is that it's somebody, and that's exciting actually, because they believe in your potential. And that's the other thing, right? So next question would be, what are the qualities, like when you were looking for a mentor, what were the qualities you were looking for?
So for me, somebody that has a faith, right? Like for me, it wasn't just a Christian, but a seasoned Christian, somebody who's been journeying as a Christian for quite some time.
Okay, yeah.
And also life experience, right? In general, not necessarily like, yes, being a parent, it would be ideal and nice to have somebody who's a parent, but that wasn't a make it or break it kind of thing for me. It was like, well, if they're a parent, good. If not, then oh well. But I just needed somebody who had enough life experience and understood the ups and downs of life, which I've had enough of, I felt. So I
Yeah.
was like, if she gets it, it would be so much better to relate to her, somebody who will understand, who even their advice and opinion will also be grounded in some of that experience, right? So
Yeah.
life experience was crucial for me. That it was, yeah, she'll understand what I'm talking about when I'm saying it's crappy today
Yeah.
or whatever, right?
She'll
Yeah.
get it. She'll get
Yeah.
it.
Yes.
Okay.
And
And
for
I
you.
that's the same for me, a lot of it. You know, we'll talk about this in a minute, but I was kind of thinking about where I am in life and what are the places where I think I need some help or guidance, like
Mhm.
where I can't fully figure it out on my own. So that's a good thing. But I wasn't necessarily looking for somebody who had great success in life.
Mm.
Even though all of us want growth, I was
Mhm.
really looking for somebody who could understand my passions,
Mhm.
shared passion, shared faith, and leadership qualities, because I want to develop in that area. I want to be a good leader. So I want to look around and see who has those qualities, who has that character that I
Mhm.
want to model, that I aspire to, and somebody who lived out their faith in that context. Because, there are, there's lots of leadership people, there's lots of
Yeah.
gurus and things like that out there, but I
Yeah.
actually wanted somebody who paired it with their faith, because those two things are important to me. So
Mhm.
so that's kind of, it's important to define the qualities you're looking for in a mentor, right?
Very
So
much so. Yeah.
the idea that they have wisdom, that
Mhm.
they have life experience. We mentioned that they're further along the journey, right? Like you can have, Melat, I would even say you're a mutual mentor. We are mutual
Mhm.
mentors, and that we're on the journey together in the path. But there's something to looking for somebody further along the journey,
Mhm.
um, who has this, not to be. Well, this is interesting. Lorna, your mentor,
Mhm.
was a CEO of a broadcast company.
Mhm.
Were you looking for somebody who was a CEO of a broadcast company?
Not at all.
That wasn't your
No,
criteria.
it wasn't my criteria at all. And quite honestly, somebody actually asked if I was intimidated by that. And I said, no, I didn't really care what she did. And even when she started mentoring me, she'd actually had already stepped, you know, she'd retired, right? So
Right.
her being a CEO really didn't matter, but I knew there was enough life experience, whether it was professionally or just in her personal life, that could pour so much into my life, right? And the fact that when we say further down the journey, I know that I can pick from that. Like there's years of wisdom there, right? There's a
Yeah,
pool that you can pull from. And it wasn't CEO or not. Like to me, it was like, well, that's a perk. Great. You
yeah.
have some good experience professionally, but no, it didn't really matter.
That wasn't your that. See, that's,
No.
I think that's interesting, and I wanted to differentiate between that. And some people might be looking for
Hmm.
a CEO or somebody in that role, but that was not your criteria. So
No.
that's really interesting. So thinking about, what's the criteria also means asking in what areas of life might you need a mentor that can kind of guide you to think about who. Um, so what about that for you, Malat? In what areas of life? How does someone determine that?
As parents, or and I guess in our case, young parents, I think we have this tendency to just focus on the fact that we're parents and that's like our main thing in life, which yes, that's a great thing. But I feel that we sometimes lose sight of the fact that there's other areas in our life that need developing, right? And I
Mm-hmm,
know for
mm-hmm,
myself, even having been a young parent, it becomes all about your children and that's all you do. That's all you know to do, right?
mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
you kind of, yeah. So what are other areas in your life? So for me, I went back to school when my kids were a year and 4. And man, did I wish, looking back now, I'm like, I wish I had a mentor in that time, going back to school with two young kids. Yes, you have a guidance counselor who tells you to take biology one semester and whatever course
Yeah.
next semester. But that was kind of it. That was the end of that relationship. So somebody who could have journeyed with me, who had already been there, done that to some
Mhm.
degree, that could say, okay, yeah, you know what? There'll be these difficult times. There will be these ups and downs, or you're going to need these support systems to come alongside to help you. Now I look back and I'm like, man, I wish I had a mentor then.
Yeah.
So looking back now and seeing that, I see how crucial it is that we look at other areas in our lives outside of, and if parenting is it, that's great too. But what are other areas in our lives that need developing? Whether it's going back to school, whether it's picking a career path, whichever it is, right? Developing holistically, what are other areas that you
Yeah.
can use a mentor in?
Yeah.
And you don't
That's great.
necessarily always go to this, one person isn't going to have it all, right? So
Yes.
finding people, more than one at least, that can help
Yeah,
you in that. Yeah.
totally. I think that's so good. And when I think about our young parents, I'm thinking, what are some of those questions we've been posed, like wanting to find a job,
Mhm.
wanting to have better relationships, whether it's friendships or with a
Mhm.
co-parent,
Mhm.
how to parent, of course,
Mhm.
finances. Like there's so
Oh
many
yeah,
very
that's a big
practical
one.
ways. So it,
Mhm.
it takes some like self-reflection to say, what are the areas even where I feel stuck, where I feel it's difficult? Because a mentor can help you get unstuck, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
They can give you the push you need, the resources you need. So that's really important to remember. Um, so doing that self-reflection, and then maybe you would feel hopeful that there are people who are called to, are willing to be a mentor to you. So on that note, how do you find a mentor? I talked about my experience. I've got some tips, but let's start with you.
Well, I mean, hearing the qualifications mentioned, right? Like we all have different, so different things are important to us, what we're looking for in a mentor. It's really important and crucial to look around to the people within your own village, right? We talk about it takes a village to raise a child, to have that support, right? So who are those people within your village that can be mentors? In my experience, trying to even find a mentor, I remember when Lorna's name came up, I was like, oh no, she's busy. There's no way. Like I already kind of said no for her.
Right.
If you recall the conversation we had, you're like, maybe just give it a try. Let her say no. And I was like, okay, sure, I guess. And when I asked her, she's like, what? Talk about timing. She's like, this is excellent. And I was like, what? So sometimes it'll shock you what people are, the people that are around you that could play those roles that you hadn't even thought of, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's really
Mm-hmm.
important to look within our reach to identify those people, but by also identifying what are the areas that you want to be mentored in first, right? Like you
Mm-hmm.
cannot assess which person would be ideal if you don't even know what areas you want to grow in, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. So, two things come to mind. One thing when you were saying, you kind of had disqualified yourself
Mhm.
to ask Lorna. Lorna, are you listening?
Oh, she
But
knows. I told her.
okay. But I actually when I heard you say that, it actually made me think about my years long journey of looking for a mentor to say, had I disqualified myself as much as that I had people who say they weren't qualified to mentor me, which I wish that wasn't the case. I wish they hadn't
Mhm.
responded that way and it felt like a loss. At the same time, I was disqualifying myself to be mentored by some people, and I wish I had been bolder to ask. And
Mm,
that's one thing that I want to stress is don't let your own insecurities get in the way of
mhm,
asking somebody who you look to and admire. They may say no, but that is the worst that can happen. If you don't ask, you're saying no for them.
mhm, mhm,
Um, and the other thing is to, and Lorna talked about this, defining expectations. Like this, don't think it's a lifelong thing. Don't put that
mhm,
on anybody. Don't put it on yourself to be connected for life. this is seasonal. Often it turns into friendship. Often after you've been mentored, you can't help it. You've gone on this journey together, but you can't put that person in that place forever and ever. So think about that as well, and think of these as like short-term seasonal input into your life. And that's really helpful for you even to ask somebody, because you're not just loading it on them. I have this problem, will you solve it for me forever? It's you seeking growth and seeking help with that growth. There's some things though that I want to speak to in that drought of when I couldn't find a mentor. What's really cool is that there's a lot of people who put out a lot of good information online, podcasts, books on the things that you're wanting to know about and learn about. Can you self-direct yourself and find these like distant mentors, I guess I would call them, in the meantime? Ideally, it's better to walk with someone more closely who know you and your situation and can give you help and guidance that way. But I just wanted to mention that as in the meantime. And I also wanted to mention, of course, that we will always promote that it's better together. Right now, like,
yes, definitely.
Don't do this on your own. That's only a Band-Aid solution.
But there's actually great power there to doing it together.
Yeah, and I do think, and I'll leave this like this, is that it's something God wants for us. That He means for humanity to be connected and to be helping each other, to be speaking into, investing each other, loving each other. And this is really what the mentorship relationship is. And I will add, whoever, just as we seek mentors, so also should we consider how we can mentor others. So that's just kind of a larger vision for that.
Yeah, and I think we often don't understand just the great power of having somebody who's been there, done that to some degree, and then looking at them and going, see, they've been through it and they've made it out, or they've succeeded or whatever. So it's really encouraging. Like when I look at Lorna and I'm like, yeah, look, the powerhouse that she is, I can whatever this season and end up like that. So we'll put it out there. If you guys would like to find a mentor, we would love to support you and help you find your person. Hope that helps.
Hope that helps. See you next time.
Bye.